I used to think discomfort was proof that I was doing the right thing. If something felt heavy, exhausting, or quietly painful, I told myself it meant I was being responsible, that it meant I was growing up, that it meant I was becoming the kind of woman people respected. I believed that for a long time. My name is Anna. I'm 35 years old, and only recently did I realize how close I came to losing myself by always doing what was expected of me. When I was younger, I didn't see expectations as pressure. I saw them as guidance. Rules felt comforting. They told me how to live without having to question myself too much. I grew up watching women who were praised for being steady, reliable, and selfless. Women who held everything together without asking for much in return. I learned early that wanting more could be dangerous. It could make you seem ungrateful, difficult, selfish. So I learned to be careful. I learned to read the room before speaking. I learned to choose the option that made the least waves. I learned to say yes when I wasn't sure, because uncertainty felt irresponsible. By the time I reached adulthood, those habits felt like my personality. I chose a career that made sense. It paid the bills. It looked good to other people. It gave me something to point to when someone asked what I did with my life. I told myself passion was optional, something for weekends, something indulgent. I stayed in relationships longer than I should have, not because they were terrible, but because they were fine. No one was cruel, no one was abusive, nothing was obviously wrong, and that made leaving feel unjustifiable. I built a life that worked. From the outside, it looked calm, organized, stable. People described me as dependable, low drama, strong. I took pride in that. What I didn't notice at first was how much effort it took to maintain that version of myself. How often I ignored small feelings because they didn't fit into the story I was telling about who I was supposed to be. The trap didn't snap shut all at once. It closed slowly. It closed in routines that never changed, in days that were full but somehow empty, in evenings where I felt tired but not fulfilled. I told myself this was adulthood, that everyone felt this way, that this was the cost of being responsible. There were moments when I almost questioned it, standing in my kitchen late at night, lights off, scrolling through nothing in particular, feeling restless without knowing why. Sitting at my desk at work, listening to conversations that no longer interested me, wondering when I stopped caring so much. Each time, I pushed the feeling away. I told myself to be patient, to be grateful, to wait. Waiting became my coping mechanism. I waited for the right time, for more confidence, for less risk, for permission. I didn't realize that while I was waiting, I was slowly shrinking. Responsibility started to feel heavier, not because I had too much of it, but because it was no longer balanced by anything that felt meaningful. I was giving, providing, maintaining, but I wasn't choosing. I confused endurance with strength. I told myself that being able to tolerate discomfort made me mature, that pushing through unhappiness was noble, that everyone else must feel this way too, and I just needed to handle it better. The truth is, endurance without honesty turns into distance. Distance from your own desires, distance from your voice, distance from the parts of you that once felt curious and alive. I was present in my life, but I wasn't fully in it. I showed up. I followed through. I did what was asked of me, but I stopped asking myself anything real. The moment things changed wasn't dramatic. There was no argument, no crisis, no single event I can point to. It was a quiet thought that came to me one morning while getting ready for work. I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, if nothing changes, this is it. Not just this job, not just this relationship, this way of living, careful, contained, always reasonable. That thought scared me more than any risky decision ever had, because for the first time, I saw clearly that my life wasn't on pause. This wasn't a temporary phase I would outgrow. This was the life I was actively building by choosing safety over truth again and again. The regret I felt wasn't about what I had done wrong. It was about what I hadn't done at all. The conversations I avoided because they felt uncomfortable. The opportunities I dismissed because they weren't practical. The versions of myself I never allowed to exist because they didn't fit the rules. I realized that doing the right thing had become a shield. A way to protect myself from risk, but also from possibility. Responsibility had turned into a trap, not because responsibility is bad, but because I never questioned who I was being responsible to. I was loyal to expectations, to routines, to other people's comfort, but I wasn't loyal to myself. That realization hurt, but it also brought clarity. I stopped asking whether a choice looked sensible and started asking whether it felt honest. That didn't make decisions easier, but it made them real. I'm not saying my life was wasted. It wasn't. There are parts of it I value deeply, people I love, lessons I wouldn't trade. But I can see now how easily a life can become small without ever falling apart, how you can disappear quietly while doing everything right. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, I want you to pay attention to that feeling. Not with panic, not with shame, just with honesty. Because that quiet discomfort isn't a failure, it's a signal. It's asking you whether you're being patient or whether you're postponing your life out of fear. I'm 35 years old. I still have time, and knowing that doesn't make me reckless. It makes me careful in a different way, careful with my years, careful with my energy, careful not to confuse approval with fulfillment. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. A life built only on what's sensible can still cost you who you are. And the regret that comes from that isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It shows up when you finally stop and ask yourself why you feel so far away from your own life. I don't know where you are or what rules you've been living by, but if you've been telling yourself to just hold on a little longer, to wait until things calm down, to wait until you've earned the right to be yourself, I hope you ask one honest question. Are you choosing patience, or are you choosing fear? Whatever the answer is, listen to it. Because the version of you that's waiting doesn't disappear. She just gets quieter. And she deserves to be heard now, not later. If this sounded familiar, if any part of this felt like it was describing your own life, then you're not alone. I'm still learning. I'm still unlearning. And I'm still making mistakes, just different ones now. If you want to hear more stories like this, real ones, told honestly, without pretending we figured it all out, subscribe to learn from my mistakes. Not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes hearing someone else's truth helps you listen to your own a little sooner.